Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Ho.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings.
Hello, Jade.
Hi.
Hi, Jade. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Yeah.
And as we can see from your hoodie...
Yeah, man. Got a brand up.
You are here for many reasons, mainly because we want to have you on the show. Your remit for being here, I suppose, is to promote StreetVet and what it's all about and what it does and what you do with it and what we can do with it and things. So is it a good idea to start off by asking you what is StreetVet? Because we have listeners in all continents other than Antarctica, and many of those people may not have heard of StreetVet. So
yeah, that's fair enough. Mm-hmm. StreetVet is a registered charity as of in 2019. So I think we're 2 years old, which is quite exciting. Mm-hmm. And we are fueled by like an army of vet and nurse volunteers, and we go out on the streets and offer free accessible vet care to pets belonging to those experiencing homelessness across the UK. Mm-hmm. So that is pretty much us in a nutshell.
So where did it start? What started all of this then, Jade?
I just had a wee notion, and I just kind of got the bit between my teeth and did a very Scottish thing where I don't kind of give up on something. But no, I was out on a night out in London in 2016 with some friends, and I always chat to people with dogs, and I was chatting to this guy, and his dog Brick had really bad skin, and he was just suddenly, I guess, I don't know, I'd never thought about it before. It just hit me. Like, where do you go? Like, what do you do? Can you go to the PDSA? Can you go to Blue Cross? Like, what happens here? And he was sort of, just really, really distressed about it and worried. And I walked away from the conversation just being like, well, if I'd had what I needed in my bag, I could have fixed his dog. It was just itchy skin. It was nothing, dramatic. So I just kind of walked away thinking...
If I could just going to cut in for a second, because our listeners may not know what the PDSA and the Blue Cross are, and they're other charities, aren't they? But they're office-based or practice-based hospitals where people can access free or cheaper treatment for their pets. So People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, PDSA. The RSPCA also have hospitals that people on low income can attend, and the Blue Cross similarly a free at point of care or reduced cost of point of care animal treatment centre. So I imagine that most countries have those sort of things in their own guise, their own different names. But get back to what you were saying. Sorry for
no, not at all. I forgot. I might need to explain these things. So I just realized that if I'd had what I needed, I could have helped. And so I walked away thinking, okay, what's going on here? And what is the provision for people experiencing homelessness with pets? Can they go to these hospitals for help? We all know, obviously, as a duty of care, if someone turns up for emergency treatment, they will be given emergency treatment, but there's a difference between emergency treatment, obviously, and ongoing care. But also, I guess the big thing that I started to realize from having conversations that then kind of came on from that was that even if they are able to go into like somewhere like the PDSA, they find it quite intimidating. And also there's a level of, I guess, you have to prove that you're eligible. So, whereas you go to, like you said, about being on low income, you might have to prove that you're on particular benefits or, prove that status. And how do you prove you're homeless? So that was something that, when I actually started to look into it was, like a really big barrier for people going into any kind of hospital, even if they may well have helped them. There was a level of concern for them. A lot of our clients have got a lot of mental health issues, social anxiety. If you go into PDSA or whatever, you'll be asked for donation. That's just routine, and again, that can be quite daunting. So there was all of those things that I hadn't actually thought about. So it became apparent that actually taking the veterinary treatment to where people felt the most comfortable, which is where they are actually on the street or in a hostel, was something that was actually going to make them trust you and let you start to treat their pet. So yeah, it just kind of started from that moment. But I met a guy, or I was told about a guy called Joshua Coombs. He's a hairdresser who cuts homeless people's hair. He started a movement called Do Something for Nothing. So it's pretty global. So most people, if you want to check him out, but he cuts hair all over the world for homeless people. And his movement Do Something for Nothing, someone told me about, because they knew I wanted to do something like that, to give your skills back on the streets.
Do something for nothing. Is
Do
it?
something for
Just
nothing.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I contacted him and I just said, I want to do what you do. And we met up for a coffee, and that was 5 years ago. And the first time I went out in the streets to actually help the animals, I went with him. So he was cutting hair and I was looking at the dogs. So yeah, that was kind of how it started for me.
Wow,
that's amazing. And it's grown presumably from just you.
It has, thankfully.
Right.
I'm not going to pretend that my parents didn't put a GPS tracker in my backpack, because they did. And we're like, what are you doing? You're mental. Like, that's a ridiculous thing to do. There was quite a lot of people thinking that, you know what, vets and nurses, they're all tired. They're all working really long hours. The last thing they're going to want to do when they get in is go out and do more. And I was like, you're wrong. I know you're wrong, because I knew that I wanted to do it. And I knew friends and colleagues who were like, yeah, we need to be able to give back in this country, because there's lots of, Worldwide Veterinary Service and all these things where you can go abroad and volunteer. But actually, to volunteer in the UK is not that easy to do, where the platform exists, where somebody has taken all the risks away. So that, RCVS are behind it, the veterinary medicines, everything's done correctly. So you can actually risk-free go out, do a couple of hours volunteering and come back. And that's what so myself and my co-founder, Sam Joseph, what we wanted to achieve. And I wasn't disappointed. So we have full inboxes. We have people wanting to volunteer. So we're in 17 locations across the UK now.
Gosh, 17 locations. That's amazing. And how many vets working for you, or with you, I should say?
Yeah, we've got latest kind. It's a mixture of vets and nurses. So we've got about between 300 and 350.
And they're all working part-time, presumably this isn't their main job, or?
No. So, I mean, it's a voluntary, so they give their time. So most of our outreaches are for that reason in the evening or at weekends. And whereas when I first did it, I went out with a backpack and went for a walk, which was totally inefficient and slightly silly. So now what we do is we've teamed up with soup kitchens. So wherever we set up a new outreach, we team up with an outreach team or a soup kitchen, because the homeless community already trust them, know them, respect them. And it's like we go along and we're with them at the same time each week, each month, so our clients get to know where we'll be. So what we ask our volunteers is to commit to 2 hours a month minimum to volunteer, and it counts as CPD. How exciting.
Counts as CPD. Well, that's great. That's really good. And 2 hours isn't a huge amount, is it?
It's like one outreach. That was the plan. And I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that do a lot more than that. But that's the kind of expectation that we ask.
So you mentioned there that people are busy, and the vets and the nurses are busy during their day-to-day work and things like that. So what is your day-to-day work when you're not street vetting?
So I am now the clinical director for StreetVet. So I left practice just over 2 years ago because I just couldn't work as a vet and run StreetVet in between. It was just getting a bit silly. So I work as a clinical director of StreetVet Monday to Thursday, and then I work in practice. I've gone back to practice 1 day a week because I missed it. And StreetVet's kind of like all the time, a level of it, because somebody has to respond to things. But ultimately, yeah, it's mostly my day job, Monday to Thursday.
Wow.
And is it just you go out and look around and see if there's anyone who needs help, or presumably there must be some sort of arrangement to meet people at a certain place for a revisit or for?
Yeah, I mean, so it's very, very, it's gone from being me being in, I don't know, 35 WhatsApp groups to a lot more of a, with the teams, to being a lot more streamlined and processed and organized now. So we have an 0800 number. So all of our clients who are registered with us, they get a tag for their pet, which has got a free phone number on it. So the number is for, like, it's not a public number, no one else gets it, only our clients. So that goes through to a call answering service, and if it's out of hours, then it goes through to our out of hours. So vets now do a lot of our out of hours work, or it goes to they then field it out to the teams. So each team has got a team lead, and then there's usually, I mean, it can be upwards, but I mean, London's got about 60 volunteers. Some of the smaller locations don't have as many, and then the calls go out from there. So in terms of how do our clients know where we'll be in the same place every single time. So we have an outreach. Before COVID, it was a lot easier because it was very consistent. We were where we were meant to be every single week, and they knew that. And they would come every week because they were coming to the soup kitchen anyway to get food. They'd bring their dog, and to be honest, a lot of it, they were some of the most well-checked dogs ever because they're seeing vets every single week. But a lot of the time they're coming for chat. They're coming to pick up food for the dogs. So we'd have dog food and toys and all that kind of stuff as well. But obviously COVID, the soup kitchen stopped, everything stopped. So we lost a lot of contact with our clients. So a lot of our clients do have mobiles, and we have, everybody's registered on a computer system like you would in a normal vet practice. So we sent out a mass text to all our clients just to remind them how to get in touch with us. But a lot of them don't have charge or credit, so it was a really distressing time for quite a lot of our volunteers because they know their clients so well, they see them all the time, and then all of a sudden, where did they go? So we had to do a different kind of outreach, which was targeted. So we would get all of our calls to our out of hours number went up by over 100% during lockdown, and most of it, if I'm honest, was for food because we were their source of dog food. So we started to do drop-offs, obviously social distance, all of that to give food, and then I guess our vet fees went through, like, doubled as well, because whereas we would do most of it with a backpack on the street, we were having to refer people into practices and fund it that way. So how StreetVet works is, anything that can be done in a consulting room, we'll do in the street. So we'll take blood, we'll test urine, we'll find needle aspirate lumps, whatever. But and then anything above that needs a procedure, we then fund them to go into practice, and we make relationships. The veterinary profession have been phenomenal. We make relationships with practices, and we get a lot of support, either like discount, pro bono. So we've got this kind of network. But it was tricky, lockdown, and we're still trying to just, I guess, sort of get that back to consistent outreaches again, because again, the volunteers, as we talked about, they're tired, they're working really long hours in practice during COVID, and self-isolating sometimes, or shielding and looking after their kids' homeschooling. So it was really tricky, but we're getting back on track now.
Wow,
that's incredible work, and there's so many questions I could go on and ask from a veterinary point of view of your limitations and the potentials there, but I think our listeners would start to glaze their eyes over. But I'm going to ask something I think pretty contentious, and I'll lead up to it. I'll start off by saying I think it's an excellent idea, and there's a homeless chap that I live near Horsham, and this chap and I have sparked up a bit of a discussion relationship because he reads the same books as me. So whenever I go shopping in Horsham, I take along one of my old books and get that to him to read. And he's sadly, he lost his dog 2 years ago. and has been devastated ever since. So clearly there is a huge benefit to homeless people having a pet. We know there's a huge benefit to anyone having a pet. Homeless people perhaps even more so. A lot of them have mental health problems and find it a struggle to communicate and interact and socialize with other people. In some cases that may have been the cause of them becoming homeless. In other cases it's arisen because they've become homeless. And pets often bridge that gap. It's companionship. So here we go. Here's the hard question. Are pets suffering because they're not looked after properly? And should we, rather than going along and giving treatment to pets that may not be able to consistently get veterinary treatment, just say to them, no, I'm sorry, if you haven't got a home, then you can't look after a dog? I think we know the answer, and let's hear it.
Yeah, no, it's not contentious. It's fine. I've been asked it. I mean, it's a fair enough question. I think people, have that question in their mind. They always want to know, where do the dogs come from? Like, where do these people get their dogs? What's the deal there? And also, are they looking after them properly? And I guess, I'm in a privileged position to be able to answer the question like with some evidence to back it, to be honest. So I mean, we've been doing this for 5 years now, and in terms of, there was I don't want to bore your listeners with an actual study, but there was a study done that did look at housed pets versus their health status to those living with those experiencing homelessness. It was done by William and Hogg at Cambridge Vet School, and yeah, comparable, 100%. And the problems that you see are also very similar, and we would absolutely concur with that. So I think what people who are unsure or concerned, need to, I think the biggest thing to think about is, where do the dogs come from? And I think once you have the answer to that, you really get it. And I think majority of the people that we are our clients had their dogs when they were in a different situation, when they're linked to happier times. I treated a dog a few months ago, and the owner lost his farm, and this was his sheepdog. Like, they worked together, lived together. There was no way he was giving up his dog. So sometimes people are on the street for that reason. We all know there's a massive problem with getting accommodation with pets at the moment. It's very topical, but so you either don't take accommodation because you're not going to give up your pet, or when you are on the street with your pet, you then can't get into accommodation with your pet. So it is having a pet and choosing to stay with that pet rather than actually relinquishing it is actually perpetuating homelessness, because these people are so bonded and care so much about that pet that they're willing to maintain that status of rough sleeping. Because and the other thing that we see, and I think again sort of confines this, is a lot of our clients are sick. They need themselves to go to a hospital, and they won't go. They will not go because they don't trust anyone with their dog. And it's only through, StreetVet building trust. Like, it can take months, and then they're like, okay, I know you guys are not going to take my dog, I'll go, and they go to hospital, and we board their dog for a period of time until they come out. So I think in terms of health status, it's more the same as anyone. It's education. They're willing to do it once they understand, but it's a massive trust issue, because what you've got to remember, and I didn't get at all when I started doing this, is the people that we're working with have really kind of sometimes slipped through the cracks, and they've been let down in their lives a lot by lots of different things that happen to them. So when you go and you offer help, they don't believe it, they don't trust, they think they're very defensive, because the only thing that they feel that they are responsible for is that pet. That's their role, that's their reason for getting up in the morning, and they worry. They've got real concerns that you're going to judge them, or in some way try to separate them from that pet. So I guess the main thing to think is that what do pets want? Like, what does my dog want? It wants my time. I don't always have that time. They want to be exercised, they want to be fed, and they need veterinary care, and to be looked after. And they have like their owner with them 24 hours a day. So these dogs have separation anxiety. That's something they definitely do have, because they're never separate from their owner. So when they do go into boarding or whatever, that is something that we do worry about. But yeah, so in answer to your question, they are some of the most profound bonds I've ever seen in my veterinary career, to be honest.
Wow. So so far, Jade, you've mentioned dogs. Okay.
No, we've got cats. So we've got cats. We do.
Are there any other more unusual pets that
so I would say, so we've definitely got quite a lot of cats. I'd say it's about an 80% dog situation. Right. But we've got a couple of ferrets. We've got, I believe.
Presumably they're in Yorkshire down people's trousers, are they?
I actually personally haven't treated any of the ferrets, but I know that they're in. I know they're in London. We've got some rabbits, some rats, and we recently helped a gentleman because he needed to go into hospital, and he was in a hostel, and we fostered his bearded dragon for him. Wow. So there you go. Wow. That's probably our most unusual one.
Gosh. Now you'd have to argue that keeping a bearded dragon outside of a vivarium with no source of ultraviolet light.
It's definitely in a host. That one was in a hostel. So
he
had everything he needed. Yeah, no. We wouldn't advocate that. It was properly well looked after in all the necessary equipment, and went to stay with an exotics vet nurse for the period of time that he was in hospital. So
great.
So, yeah.
Great. Amazing. I think it's a fantastic job you're all doing. Really, really is incredible. And again, so many questions I could ask, so many trails I could go down, levels of service you're able to offer, and the degrees of happiness and joy that you're enabling for these poor people who find themselves in a situation that isn't that far removed from any of us. What's the old saying? 2 pay packets away from homelessness, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, to be fair, I think COVID has made a lot of people see things quite differently, because, you think you're secure, you think you're fine, your job's whatever, and the next thing, okay. So the unforeseen happened. So I know that, in terms of StreetVet, we're experiencing a massive increase, sadly. Our Gloucester team, I was talking to them yesterday, would normally be registering a new client every couple of months. They're now registering a new client every week. And that's, people are being evicted, and, all the usual things, sadly. So, I think I kind of hope that COVID, in a backwards kind of way, has maybe made people understand how important pets are. Just like what you were saying before, they're important to everybody, and people who suddenly were isolated, that maybe never had to be isolated before, and the only company they had was their pet, can maybe start to understand why that translates to somebody on the street, and why they won't give up their pet.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Completely.
Incredible work, Jade. What made you become a vet in the first place?
I didn't intend to start a charity, I'll tell you that. I don't really have an exciting story where I have any connections to veterinary medicine in my family. I just read some books by Virginia Vale called Animal Inn, and I was 11, and it's about a girl and her dad was a vet, and I just loved it, and I was like, right, that's me. And a bit like how I said, I get a bit like my mum says, I get a dog with a bone, would be how most of my family would describe me. I just decided that's what I wanted to do. So that was it.
From the age 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started seeing practice when I was 12 at a vet's, once a week. Yeah. Can't do that.
Graduated when you were 14?
Yeah, absolutely. So
wow. No. Okay, so where did you qualify?
Glasgow.
Glasgow. Okay, so you stayed relatively close to home, I presume.
I did indeed. I didn't particularly want to, not going to lie, but just at the time, I know things have changed, a lot more vet schools now, but pretty much if you're Scottish, it tended to be you go into the Scottish vet schools. So yeah. that was it really.
Cool.
Right. And do you go back to Scotland much?
Not that much. My mum and dad come down here quite a lot, although obviously not at the moment. So, but yeah, I'm getting married in a couple of weeks, and they are coming, and I haven't seen my dad for quite some time. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
So,
Thanks.
So you will be married by the time this goes out.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a thought.
So
Yeah.
will you be still known as Jade Statt then, or?
Oh no, it's a hard one. Because like in the veterinary world, that's kind of what you get used to being called, isn't it? But no, I was planning to change it. But he's in the veterinary world too, so it's all just a bit, who knows.
And is he a street vet as well?
No, he is the editor of the Vet Times.
Oh.
I know. Yes. Well, I hope the wedding is fantastic, and I hope you have a very, very happy married life together.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll raise a drink to that.
Yeah,
I've got a coffee here, but I'll raise it too.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah,
I've got a coffee as well. Yeah.
I had another question about StreetVet, if that's all right, Jade.
Yeah, man, fine.
Which is, we've mentioned mental health. We mentioned the positive mental health of owning a pet, and you've mentioned the stress that the veterinary team has been under because of COVID. And of course, the veterinary team is always under stress. We have the highest rate of mental unhealth of any of the professions. Does presumably the benefits of helping out, of giving your time, a massive improvement in mental health, aren't they? There's the feel-good factor that you are doing something for other people, but they must hear and see such horrific tales of desolation and sadness. Do you find that people have compassion problems? They burn out through charitable work of this nature, or
I mean, I guess when we first started doing this, I didn't really think about the kind of impact that potentially you're taking a big bunch of fixers. We all like to help. That's what we want to do, and when we want to fix problems, and sending them out to work with a demographic of people who potentially have a life expectancy for a male on the street is not more than 45, and it just didn't hit with me. And then I've been doing StreetVet for, I can't remember, I think it was a couple of years, and someone that I had worked really closely with died, and I was beside myself, and I was just like, what have I done? Like, I literally sat in my room thinking, I've just created like a big problem here. Like, how can I send people who are like me, that's what we do. We, and you're getting close to people, whether you want to or not, because it is that kind of a nature, you're building trust and building a relationship. And I really struggled. I was going to walk away, and say, this is not okay. I've maybe, and I just sort of took stock and thought, right, we need to make sure these people are really, really supported. And it is hard, and you can put loads of boundaries in place, like you mustn't give out your phone number, and and it's all in the, but ultimately, if you took me back, I'd do exactly the same thing as I did with Dean, that the gentleman that died. Like, I would have probably broken all those rules myself, because some people just, you just have a connection with. He was about the same age as me, and it is really hard, and we say to people who are coming on board to volunteer for StreetVet, it might not be for you. Like, I am not gonna make this out that it's all singing, all dancing, and everything's wonderful. It's not. It's hard. You see things that you've probably never seen before, and you will be exposed to things that it's very hard to walk away from. And it was a couple of years ago, we did a survey with about 118 of our volunteers, and we asked them, what they found the most challenging about StreetVet. And they all said the walking away and feeling helpless. And that really hit me, because, you know, we can do our one bit, but we can't, you know, we, at the end of the day, we leave and they're in the snow, and we go back to our house. So it isn't for everybody. And what we have done, or what I've tried to do, so is we have a conference every year, a 2-day conference where we try and get as many of us together, but it's got 180 people capacity, so not everybody can come. And we have quite a few interactive sessions. We do quite a lot of well-being stuff. We've got Rosie Alistair from Vet Helpline runs a reflective webinar with me every month, the same day every month. So if people do have a particularly difficult case or something they've exposed, they can come on and just talk to other people who are volunteering with StreetVet in the same, who get it. And we talk different topics like moral distress, moral injury, compassion fatigue, all of that kind of stuff. Everyone's got access to mental health first aid training for free. And
could I say, sorry, I did a mental health first aid course recently.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And I would urge anyone to get the training. It was a 4-day course via Zoom. I think it's a 2-day
in person.
course.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely amazing. They work on very easy principles to understand. Basically, first aid for mental health is the same as first aid for anything else. You're putting a bandage on and teaching them how to seek further help. But sorry to take
no, not at all. No,
mental health first aid.
Yeah, so we do that, and then everybody has a buddy. We have a buddy system, and we've just introduced. I try and do as much as I can, to be honest, because I did. Mental health is a massive thing for me. I used to be on the Vet Life board. I've suffered with my own mental health, which is probably one of the reasons that I started StreetVet. And I guess we started Veterinary. We teamed up with Lacey Pitcher with Veterinary Pay It Forward, and we nominate each other, and they get like a well-being package sent to them that StreetVet covers, and we have Volunteer of the Year award, and we just try really hard to acknowledge and kind of come together as a community. We have CPD that we run every month as well. But yeah, it is. I can't dress it up. It's definitely hard work. And it's not like what you do in practice at all. Would be my feeling on it. You know, you've got to consider a whole different host of circumstances, and things that, you know, you can and can't do, and that you have to consider.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds
so. Surely this is all of those support structures and everything else that you're doing have evolved over the time you're doing it. So when, forgive me, when that young girl went out with a rucksack first night. So has that evolved as you've gone on and learnt more, or that first time you went out with your rucksack, did you think, I need this, we 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 need this, and the whole world?
Yeah, I'd love to think that I had that degree of foresight. But no, it was this most steep learning curve of my life. Has been doing this. From my naivety and ignorance about how the help would be received, about how the help could be delivered, and I think the thing I was sure about was that the profession would get behind it. I didn't ever doubt that, and they have not disappointed me in one way, from the wider industry to the pharmaceutical companies to everybody. I also knew that getting it across the line was going to be hard. Like, I'd have to have a lot of meetings with a lot of people, just to make sure that I was doing everything correctly, because the last thing I wanted to do was like jeopardize anyone else's career because I hadn't done things, you know, we hadn't put everything in place that we needed to. But in terms of understanding homelessness and the layers and complexities, absolutely not. And I genuinely also didn't get how by helping the animal you would just end up in it's almost like you don't know where one stops and the other starts. They are absolutely like a unit. and you get to know the animal, but you only get to know the animal because you've got to know the person, and it's a really complex relationship, and that's the bit that people find hard. So another thing that I guess came out of that when we did the survey was, why did you get involved with StreetVet? And most people changed their mind. It started off all about the pet, and it's now ended up where people are really engaged with the people, which is it's been really interesting. But what came out of that for me has been the most recent project that we've embarked on, which is yes, we can go out and we can help the pet, and that obviously helps the owner because that's their life, but and we do the boarding so they can go to hospital. But the thing that was bothering all of our volunteers and all of us the most was that they couldn't get into a hostel because they had a pet. And there was this thing which, still absolutely disgusts me. But if you are offered a room in a hostel and you have a pet and you refuse it because you won't give up your pet, you're then deemed as voluntarily homeless. So
that's disgusting, isn't it?
Wow.
So there's like a little kind of black mark. Well, you've been offered, so
they've forgotten about that, and that's it. They had the chance.
Well, they just know that they're not going to take the room. So one of the things that we started to look at is, can we get, why are hostels saying no? What can we do to help them? And sometimes it was as easy as, we'll get you some leads and we'll get you some muzzles, or we'll get you a crate. But what's kind of evolved from that was, there was a competition that was run, and I saw it on a Friday on LinkedIn, and I decided that we couldn't not apply for it, and the deadline was the Monday, so that was my weekend. But it was about a project that enhances the human animal bond, and I was like, right, it's been in our heads, we've been talking about it for ages, but we're going to do it. And we applied. It was a global competition, and we won. Wow. So we won £41,000 to basically start. It's called the StreetVet Accredited Hostel Scheme. So the premise behind it is, we make it as easy as possible for hostels to say yes to pets. And what is kind of involved, the background behind it is, the biggest reason they say no is because they're not confident. They're there to work with people, and then all of a sudden there's dogs, and they're like, who's responsible for their welfare? Like, what happens here? So a lot of it is training the staff, education, materials. Obviously, anyone that's in a StreetVet accredited hostel gets their vet care for free. They get food delivered. They get, all their bits that they need. We give them the vet care to get, if they need to go to surgeries, for surgery. And we also, they have a telemedicine platform that we put in, like we have in the hostels, which allows them, if there is an emergency and they can't get hold of a volunteer, they can at least get some immediate advice. So yeah, we launched our first one in November, and that is the plan. That's what's coming, hopefully.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, gosh, I can't even begin to imagine the sea change that would bring about. That's absolutely incredible.
So I need to ask you, Jade. We sometimes ask this question.
Go on.
Well, it's a tough one here. I think I know what your answer is actually going to be. Well, you've gone through a lot, and you've done a lot in your time, and have impacted a lot of lives. So if you were writing, not to necessarily your 11-year-old self, who was going to become a vet. Well, in fact, no. Let's change it. Let's do it. If you were going to write a letter or a card to your 11-year-old self, who's going to set out and become a vet, what would you tell them? Don't start StreetVet.
No, I'm a believer. I love my job. I genuinely do.
That comes across. That
I do. I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't do anything else. So, I don't think I'd tell myself. I'd probably tell myself not to work so hard. It wasn't necessary. I think I would have had more fun at university, because it really, it didn't matter whether you got honours or not. It was a bit irrelevant. So I think I would tell myself that. But yeah, I'd still do this every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So
great. Great. Good.
So what would you tell that? Okay, so let's move it forwards then and get something more constructive. What would you tell that young vet taking a rucksack out stuffed full of who knows what onto the street for the first time? It's obviously evolved a lot since then.
Yeah. I'd still do that as well. I'd do everything. I don't regret it. I don't regret any of it. But I think that it probably could have been done a bit better the first time I did it.
What top tips would you give that person then?
Bigger rucksack.
Bring a friend. Yeah, I think I should have understood or tried to understand my client base a bit better, because I genuinely, and it's embarrassing to think it, but just kind of bounced up to people like, I'm here to help, Allah, and they're like, maybe not spoken to someone for 3 days, and they're like, who are you? Like, fuck off, you know what I mean? And people are like, well, were people not grateful? And that really bothers me when people have this conversation about, I offered somebody who was sleeping on the street a coffee and they didn't want it. I was like, everybody's not there just to be grateful for your one moment of kindness. Like,
No,
you don't know what's just happened to them for like every day of the week for the last week. And so, yeah, I think that I wish I'd understood better. And what I know now about approaching people and engaging with people. And yeah, it was a real naivety when I did it. But I don't know, maybe that was, maybe I needed to find out those lessons that way. And that's helped me to understand what the barriers are and why people don't, go into a vet clinic. I hadn't really realized that. And they we've got clients that will not leave where their area is because they actually feel like a bit agoraphobic. Like there's a bit of institutionalization that happens, when you're homeless. And we had a dog that was going in for an operation, and the dog needed to be indoors afterwards. So we put the owner up in, and this was years ago, but in like I think it was just like a hotel for the night, and he didn't want to go in. Like it was causing him a real anxiety. And I think, again, that's what people don't understand. Like a lot of people got PTSD, they're suffering with some pretty severe things. And, so bouncing over and then getting offended when somebody doesn't want your goodwill is not any reflection on, like it's nothing to do with you.
No.
It's all to do with them.
Yeah.
And what's
I guess
happening.
we tend to see homeless people and people who are in need as these almost helpless children, don't we? It's a very patriarchal, patronizing view that we give them something and they look up to us with sort of Oliver Twist like, oh, thank you, Gov. God, dear, this is great. But actually, these are people who are suffering hugely, both physically and mentally. We have no conception
Nothing.
in any individual case of what's behind all that, what's caused it. And actually forcing help onto them is the wrong thing to do in those cases, because they may not need it, they may not want it, and actually they may be terrified of getting it. They may, their thoughts may go beyond, I don't want this, to this person is going to kill me. And
I think
it's terrifying as that.
It's so Josh, who cuts hair, when I was talking to him, he had somebody he used to speak to see him all the time, but he would never let him cut his hair. And it was only after 4 months or 5 months, he was like, okay, I'm ready for that haircut now. And that's just a trust thing. That's a spatial awareness thing. That's a million things that we probably don't even know. Or they're ashamed. Maybe they think they don't want someone to touch their hair because it's dirty. There's so many things that go through, from anger, shame, pride, we have no comprehension what what goes on. But I think that the biggest thing that I have taken away from all of StreetVet is just how important it is to actually listen and speak to somebody and actually listen. These people need to feel like someone's connected and somebody's interested and taking time. So going up and off, like giving someone a coffee and then getting annoyed when they don't take it. Maybe they don't like coffee. Do you know what I mean? Did you ask?
Yeah.
And it's, everybody's an individual. And I remember I went up to one of my clients and I was like, right, okay, I'm going, what do you want, anything? And he just looked at me and he was like, I really, really want a strawberry milkshake. And I was like, okay, we'll make that happen. And that's the thing, like, you need to talk to people. And actually, and that is like with Josh, the beauty of what he does is he connects doing your hair. When you get your hair cut, like, I don't know, I'm sorry, Julian, but and Mike, bit of a sore point, but you talk to your hairdresser, and you tell them things and you open up.
Yeah,
really?
Maybe on your holiday. Yeah.
Hairdresser.
Do you know, I was in Brighton.
Well, maybe that's not the best. Speaking to you and opening up, and it's the same when you talk to them about their pet. You connect over something like common ground, and then you get. I mean, we would never ever ask anyone their backstory or ask them any questions, but over time, they start to tell you stuff, and
it's up to them to deliver that, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I was in Brighton a couple of weeks back, and there was this homeless chap in one of the shop doorways, and someone walked over with all the warmest of hearts, handed him a burger. I said, "There you go, mate." And he said, well, "What is this?" It's a burger. So I'm a vegan. And the look of fury in this person's eyes as he stormed off. Vegan. You can't be a fucking vegan. Well, of course you can. You can have whatever moral or dietary wish you want. Yeah. But there was this
well, you should be grateful for whatever I give you, basically.
Yeah, this arrogance. How can you make life choices when you're on the street? Well,
that's what that is.
It's awful. Absolutely awful. I was so shocked. So I went up.
But I mean, I think the base piece of advice, the base piece of advice to give anyone is just say hi and have a chat, and if you did want to do something, ask them what they need,
Absolutely. And listen. And listen. Listening is the most difficult thing in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's free, but actually, what does it cost us? It seems to cost a huge amount, otherwise we'd all be doing it.
I was always told you've got 2 of these ears and 1 of those mouth. Use it in that order.
Absolutely.
Sadly, I wasn't listening at the time, so that's brilliant. Tell me, Jade, you mentioned earlier on that StreetVet counts as CPD.
It does.
So you can say to the RCVS that you've worked for StreetVet for 2 hours or 4 hours a month.
I thought you were going to say 5 years. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could. No, we do. It's like we say don't count all of your CPD as StreetVet. They wouldn't like that. But like doing a new project, mentoring, because a lot of the volunteers obviously mentor and teach the others.
Mm-hmm.
As StreetVet, we do CPD every month. So they get that anyway. And then the conference, we give free CPD. So if you become a StreetVet volunteer, we pretty much guarantee to give you your whole year's CPD in some form or other as a bit of a thank you really for doing it.
So I'm wondering if there's a minute or a 60-second space there for people to get 60 seconds worth of CPD.
I think there probably could be, but it wouldn't be about StreetVet.
Doesn't need to be.
Well, that's fair enough. So have you come across our 60-second CPD challenge?
I have.
You have? Are you up for it?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to time me.
Oh yes.
It's hardcore. It's actually like there's a timer.
Mike's got his handy pocket timer there.
Yeah. I've got my pocket watch. Yeah. It's all here.
So for those listeners, he's got a full-size computer he's holding up to the screen now.
Okay, so you're up for this, are you, Jade?
Well, I mean, I'll give it a go.
Okay, fantastic. What's your subject?
Chinchillas.
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 Okay.
Ooh.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
We did not, no.
Oh, we didn't see that coming at all. Okay. So Jade Statt, soon to be Jade something else probably, which is fine. Jade Statt from StreetVet, 60-second CPD on chinchillas starting now.
So if you have a chinchilla come in to see you, the first thing that you need to think about if they're not eating is about their teeth, and you should feel underneath their jaw because they don't have a lot of fat pads. So what you're interested in is if you can feel any root elongation. The other thing that happens with chinchillas, if they are not eating, it's a bit similar to rabbits. So they're going to have small poos, and they're also going to flick their ears, which they do quite a lot if they're in pain. The biggest thing that people do or underestimate in chinchillas is what to give them for pain relief. So the best thing is, well, high doses. It will seem high doses of meloxicam. So I give them 0.5 milligram per kilogram BID. The other thing, very random but important to know, if they have a penis prolapse, they probably have a fur ring. And the other thing to know is that if you need to take blood from a chinchilla, you should take it from their cranial vena cava.
Wow. Gosh. And that is 60 seconds of CPD on chinchillas, which you're absolutely right. We did not see coming. That was
left field.
Amazing. left and centre. That was brilliant. Thank you very much.
That was fabulous.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So do you keep chinchillas, Jade?
No, I got called out in my younger street vet days. See, this is how I feel like I say my younger veterinary days, and I was told that I had what I thought was a Chihuahua cesarean, and it was only when I got to the practice that it was actually a chinchilla cesarean. And that was when I met this particular lady who kept like 70 chinchillas. And yeah, she followed me every practice I went ever since. Now I'm not in practice, so no longer. But I just ended up seeing a lot of chinchillas in my veterinary life, and people would, even though I have no particular skills, I just got to learn really. So I used to see a lot of chinchillas, do pyometras on chinchillas, and yeah, it was. I like them. They're pretty cute, but they I just kind of ended up inadvertently learning stuff about them.
Wow.
So it could have been Jade Statt, the chinchilla vet, rather
It could have
than Jade Statt, the street
Yeah,
vet.
absolutely. Could have been that.
I have to say, chinchillas are beautiful animals. They're gorgeous. They're, to my mind, they don't make the best pets because they're very nervous, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess it
And
depends.
nocturnal.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, this particular lady, like, I mean, her chinchillas were so handled, so they were very sweet. And they also, I mean, one of them I treated lived till he was like 23, 24. So yeah, I guess they can be good pets if they're looked after properly, or, bred properly, I guess, as well.
Yeah. I have a friend who lives up the road who keeps all sorts of exotic animals in terms of squirrels and chipmunks and chinchillas and rabbits. And I have to say, his chinchillas are the friendliest animals I've ever known.
Yeah.
They live wild around his house.
Nice.
And so you're never quite sure when you open the front door which of his many beasts is going to jump out at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see them quite often for tooth problems. And it's something to bear in mind if you do have a chinchilla or a rabbit. They're very similar in terms of their dental problems, and it's not eating. Just feel underneath. If it's dribbling, then there's almost certainly tooth problems. So a wet jowl is an early sign of one. But excellent CPD, really, really good, fantastic.
Have you taken blood from a chinchilla?
I have, yes.
Did you do the cranial vena cava?
I did the cranial vena cava.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good job.
I've put chinchilla on drips before, and I've tended to use the greater tubercle of the femur, or greater trochanter rather than the femur, and do intraosseous.
Nice.
But yeah, I find them very rewarding actually to treat.
Yeah.
Because it's usually fairly easy. as you say, there's 3 problems they tend to suffer from. And the owner comes in and says, yeah, I think it's a dental problem. Oh, yes, it is. Wow, you know your chinchillas, don't you? Yeah, well, I've seen a few. So what do you do outside of street vetting and chinchilla vetting?
No, I mean, I wish I had. At the moment, I just arrange a wedding. That seems to be what I'm doing, and looking up COVID restrictions. Yeah, I have two dogs, so I do a lot of walking. I've got a Siberian Husky and a Belgian Malinois cross.
Wow.
He's a kind of street vet. Don't know what you should call him. I inherited him, shall we say? So they're hard work. I've not long moved house, so I feel like I'm just doing stuff like that. And normally I do a lot of socializing, but that has been somewhat scuppered of late also.
Not a lot of that is there at the moment.
No. And the gym, so I now just do online HIIT classes. So yeah, it's all
Mike and I have been doing a lot of those.
Yeah. Every morning, up bright and early.
Right now, I'm going to hit this. This is what hitting is, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, cheers.
High intensity drinking. That's the one.
Nice hit. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, we get our social thrills, or I get my social thrills every Sunday, sticking needles in people's arms, which is very rewarding.
It's very rewarding. It is very rewarding.
So I was thinking about that when you were saying about how you've got to let the person that you're speaking with open up, and Julian will probably testify this because he does COVID injections as well, and it's incredible. You know, some people just don't want to talk to you; they just want to sit in the chair, get it over with. Other people, you have to show the door because they're telling you their whole health history.
Yes.
You're here for a jab. We're going to give it to you. Oh, really? And then that happened, did it? Oh, yes, okay.
But do you not think it's because a lot of people...
In 75, well, I was sick as a dog then. I don't know, but yeah.
Do you not think it's because people haven't maybe had people to talk to and they just want to talk and you're listening?
Yeah. It is, but I think there are people who would talk a lot at any vaccination, regardless of COVID.
Yeah.
And in fact, we had a session at Brighton of injecting, vaccinating a lot of homeless people. Now there were 2 teams. There was a team that went out, and I wasn't part of that. But there was a team after hours where a lot of the homeless people were convinced that it was safe to come in.
Yeah.
And we just dealt with them by the door. And that was, that was one of the best nights ever. That was fantastic. So they were all.
Yeah, I mean, we've been. I think it's we've just joined up with a health bus in Bournemouth that are doing the vaccines, and we're going to do the dogs at the same time as well. But yeah, you know, I think that they were talking about giving us, I mean, maybe you do this already, giving us like wee cards that say you're eligible for a COVID vaccine, so we could give our clients so that they felt, because again, it's another thing that they need sometimes to feel a bit empowered that they have the right to it. And, you know, so that's something that this person that I was talking to, she's actually an RVN, but she's working with the COVID sort of response in Bournemouth, was talking about getting us these wee cards to give out. So, yeah.
Right. We've talking about cards and certificates. We've actually got a CBD certificate for tonight. So because you've given a full minute of CPD, and of course veterinary ramblings do count as CPD. So here we go. Here's the CPD certificate, and it says certificate of stuff what you learned. This certifies that you probably know stuff now that you didn't know earlier, almost definitely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
And just to explain what's on there, there's a rucksack. That's what you started out with 2 years ago in StreetVet. That actually is a chinchilla with offset incisors, and there's a husky there. So we've done that. That's a picture of me when faced with a chinchilla. And here's a little saying. So this says, Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you'll create a boring twat who only talks about fishing. And here we go. This is, I think, hope for us all. There's a rainbow showing us the pot of gold that we're all due when COVID finally gets under control and we can go out and volunteer for StreetVet.
Exactly.
Julian.
Yes.
I think it's, and you'll feed him for life.
Yeah.
I've got a joke though.
Come on, then tell us a joke.
Jade, about this time, I normally finish us off quite literally with absolutely rotten joke, and this ties into your Scottish ancestry because years ago, Mike and I went to the Scottish Highlands, did a bit of walking, and we went in Mike's camper van, but unfortunately, the rain was so bad that the Mike's camper van leaked everywhere. We were freezing cold, so we decided we probably best stop one night and get some shelter. And luckily enough, there was a little light in a cottage up ahead, so we knocked on the door, and a really rather attractive woman answered the door, and we said, "Look, we're freezing cold, we're soaking wet, camper van's leaking. Any shelter?" And she said, "I'm recently widowed, and the neighbours would frown upon me if I took anyone in for the night, so I'm afraid not." We said, "Look, nothing at all. We're camper van soaking." She said, "Look, you can sleep in the barn across the way there. No problem at all." So we did. The next morning it was bright again, and off we went on our merry way. The odd thing was, about 9 months later, I received quite an official-looking letter from a solicitor up in Scotland, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on about this 9 months later. And I phoned Mike and I said, "Do you remember, a while ago, we were up in Scotland and we stayed in that barn?" "Yeah," he said, "yeah." I said, "That night, did you pay a little visit?" And he said, "Yeah, I did actually." Sorry. I said, Did you give her my name and pretend that you were me?" He said, "Yeah, I did. Why?" She said, "Because she's just died and left me everything."
Very good. I would have appreciated a wee bit of a Scottish accent, though. I have to be
don't
honest.
want to-
I was waiting for one.
Well, I don't want to offend the neighbours, They're right there
Oh, that's a bit Fife, but that'll do.
Well,
Bit Mrs. Doubtfire, actually.
I didn't want to be around Glasgow because no one understands that accent. But we'll provide subtitles to people.
Excellent. That's important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. So that's brilliant. So, but I was going to ask you one last question. I mean, do you actively recruit for StreetVet? And
Yes.
if somebody listening has got some skills that they'd be quite happy to share with the homeless of the UK and the areas that you cover, how's best for them to get in touch with you?
So yeah, we actively recruit vets and nurse volunteers. So anyone that's interested in that side of it, you can email join us at streetvet.org.uk, and that's join with a -us. And we're also we do have central volunteers as well, so people who are non-clinical and want to help us with other skills. So we have people that help us with admin, people that help us with fundraising, people that help us with social media, blogging, all that kind of stuff.
And I guess another thing we can do is give money. Is that right?
Always. So yeah, we've got a platform on the website. So we've got Just Giving, we've got Golden Giving, there's Facebook Donate, you name it. There's lots of different ways for people to donate money. Every location also has an Amazon wish list. So if people like to actually purchase something for like a dog, if we put a post up saying we've got a dog in Brighton that needs a buggy, then people can go on and actually buy a specific thing. So that's really nice. And yeah, in terms of vet practices, we have practices that give us percentages off and also give us pro bono treatments, which is amazing. So there's lots of different ways that people can get involved and help if they so wish. Absolutely.
So,
Cool.
Jade, there is so much I could ask you, and my mind's buzzing with things. But everything you've told us tonight has been so incredibly mind-blowing.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing StreetVet is, and what a wonderful and amazing job you are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And if we are able in some tiny way to get people to know about the work that StreetVet does, and people in different countries, perhaps to start these initiatives, and to contact Jade to find out how to do so.
There's some exciting initiatives going on all over the world. So I'd honestly love to hear from other people doing it, because we can all learn and help each other. There's some in France that I've spoken to. There's one in Australia, and Canada.
Le Vet de Rue.
It's definitely, there's a need, sadly, everywhere. But if we can collaborate and get together some ideas, it all helps. So
Fantastic. Well, on that note, Jade Statt from StreetVet, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. Already,
thank you for having me.
And thank you, and may your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
Cheers.